to an excellent start. Okay.
When that shows back, it'll be that dark, won't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that ain't fair. Looks like I'm on a witness protection program. Yes, and
Well,
I'm
this
fine.
one isn't,
I'm
you know.
fine. I'm fine. I'm
This is
just
good.
joking. So
So, what's the date?
today?
That's probably a good way to start this, right?
November 27th?
20 something.
No, yeah, it's November 27th,
Okay.
2016. Yeah,
So, it's Sunday, November 27th. Where are we?
Plant City, Florida, 602 North Gordon Street.
All right, so it's 2016.
Yep.
So, I'm 25 this year. And he is 37. Not
37?
whatever you want to be. How old are you this year?
70. Yeah.
So we're making this video just to pass this on to whoever wants to listen to it.
Yeah.
And away we go. And we prepared some questions that I wrote in crayon. Don't read anything into that. So, why don't you tell me what it was like when you were a kid?
Ooh. Well, growing up, I was born in Charlotte, Michigan. But I have no memory of there because my parents moved back to Florida when I was about 4 years old. And so I grew up in Hillsborough County, Tampa, Florida. And still live here at age 70. Childhood was great. I have two brothers, no sisters. That would have been different. But two brothers, an older brother, Walter Donald, and we called him Yank because he was born during World War II, and he was referred to as a little Yankee, or short Yank. To this day, I do that. And my younger brother, I was the middle boy, is Robert Frederick, or Bobby.
And so he carried the Frederick name that way.
Yeah.
In his middle name.
We took my father's name was Charles Frederick, and his brother, only brother, was Robert Dean. And so they just switch swapped names. So I became a Dean Charles, and my younger brother was a Robert Frederick. Yank was named for our grandfather, Walter Donald Amaden, who was a judge in Michigan. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did anybody else do the law route? I mean, do we have any other lawyers or judges?
Not to my knowledge, but it's a big family. We don't know all of the cousins and everything because they live in different parts of the United States. So somebody may well be in law enforcement. We just don't know that. That I know of, no. So, growing up in Florida, Florida is an outdoor state, and so being young kids and everything, we played outside all the time. I really, really had kind of a Huckleberry Finn grow up because there was so much to do and play, climb trees and play in ditches. And we walked around the neighborhood. Everybody was friendly. Everybody knew everybody. Every mother was your mother. They could all boss you around and tell you what to do, and you did it. We didn't get bicycles until we were, probably 8 or 9.
Is that typical or just
No, most kids get them. They have little bicycles, and as you grow, you get larger. Back then, you just had one kind of bicycle, and you waited till you were that tall, and so you could have a bicycle. Now, we all got bicycles at the same time. Parents went out and put together bicycles from parts and stuff like that. I guess they weren't new, put it that way. My father, he was an educator. He was a principal of schools when they came down here to Florida. My mother was a homemaker. She stayed at home. Didn't make many things, but she stayed at home.
She made the home. She didn't make things.
We didn't have a television at first. I remember the first time I ever saw television as a kid. And when it began in Hillsborough County, there was only one station. I'm trying to remember the name of it. WTGO.
That's still a station, isn't it?
It
rings a bell, anyway.
I believe it's Channel 38, I think it was.
If they only had one station, why did they have more than one channel?
Well, they had other stations up north and out west that the broadcast didn't reach down here. So they had WGN was out of Chicago, and New York. They had large stations, but not large enough to transmit down to Florida. We had to wait until Florida could afford to get their own station.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah. Same with radio. I mean, you go now, you can turn on radio and hear programs from all over the United States because they've upped the powerage.
Right.
And built taller towers and all that. But in the beginning...
Do they yell louder?
Yeah, they yell louder. In the beginning, that was not true. I mean...
you got what you got.
The radius was maybe 100 miles. So if you didn't live within 100 miles with that antenna, you didn't hear radio.
Right.
Except late at night when the air was different and you could usually pull in faintly distant stations.
Did you listen to the radio a lot?
Yeah, that was the only entertainment we had. We had one radio in the house, and the parents operated that, and we could listen.
Was it music or people talking or both?
It was serials.
Shows.
There would be, there was one called Johnny Dollar, like a detective kind of thing. It was, well, I can remember because I'd be pretty dang young. But it was good stuff. It was all radio stuff. And you could listen, and then parents would come turn it off and go to sleep. We had books, magazines around, so there was plenty to do from a literary standpoint.
Do you have anything that you did in your home that was kind of special to you, as far as like a tradition, or for example, we really enjoy when it's bedtime and we read the stories and share the stories and have that special time?
No.
Was there any?
Not really.
Tradition?
I can remember. We had a small house. It was just 2 bedrooms, and parents had 1 bedroom, and all 3 boys, we had our bedroom. And
Now, which address was this one?
2601 West Mohawk in Tampa. That's my first memory of a place that we lived. And lived there. And it had a nice yard and everything. But entertainment, my dad would maybe talk about things that he did. I can't remember the stories, but I remember him telling growing up, or maybe what he did during a war, or where he was, or what he did. But reading stories, no. Didn't have that. Uh, but our time was to play, was to go outside. And it was like you go out in the morning and you didn't come back in until you got called.
Were you the only running mates of each other, or did you guys have some friends that were always tried and true, the gang?
Yeah, in the neighborhood, Yank was 2 years older, and he kind of like had his friends. And he had one friend named Clint Evans that lived maybe 2 blocks up. And he would go visit with Clint. I never did, or Bobby never did. Bobby and I kind of palled together all the time.
How far apart you guys in age?
Less than a year. You know, like I was born in July, and he was born the following May. So May, June, July. So about 10 months apart. And we used to go see a kid our age. His name was Butch Chick. He still lives here in Florida too. I haven't seen him though. And then there were a variety of other people, like Danny Blake, or we called him Danny Keister. And he's out in California now.
Now, were the Taylor, was that family
No,
not friends
that's
yet?
Temple Terrace.
Oh, okay.
The other
Yeah, you're
would
talking
be,
way back.
The Body family, Body. Jane and Ivan Body and their kids, and they had Dick Body, and he was our age. We all walked to school together. We walked to elementary school, down the sidewalks and crossing with the crossing guard. And they didn't have crossing guards at first, but later on they did. And to our elementary school, Minden Hall. It was a good school. I remember kindergarten. I did go to kindergarten, Wellswood Kindergarten. And then elementary school, grades 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mrs. Harrell was the principal. Mrs. Biscuit was Bissett. We called her Miss Biscuit. My first grade teacher.
That's amazing. I can't remember any of those kinds of things.
Yeah. And then the school was good. I enjoyed school. Every time, every year. And I didn't have a favorite one. They were all good.
Did you do anything interesting in the summers, or was it just playing in the neighborhood?
Just playing in the neighborhood. That's all we did. We could walk together to a lake called Egypt Lake, and they had swimming there. And we learned to swim, so we could go, and they had lifeguards and everything. And we enjoyed that. That was...
Did they have public swimming pools?
Probably, but usually you'd have to pay for something like that. Well, you had to pay for Egypt Lake too, but no, we didn't go to pools. I didn't go to a pool until I was like a teenager or something like that.
When you were, when it was the holidays, like Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter, did you go see grandparents or extended family?
Only a couple of times. We had one set of grandparents here in Tampa, Florida, my mother's family, the Nix, N-I-X, Nix family. Hattie Nix and her husband, Charles Floyd Nix. And they were good people. We enjoyed that. And we would see them maybe once, twice a month to go visit because they lived in Tampa. And so it was only maybe 8-mile drive. For entertainment, if we weren't playing in the yard, we might go to a movie. They had the Seminole movie theater. And back then you could go to a movie, you saw, oh man, you saw newsreels, you saw cartoons, sing-along cartoons. You saw a serial show that would last maybe 10 minutes. Then you'd go the next week and they'd pick up from there and go again, so you'd come back. Those were kind of neat. And then you'd see 2 movies, all for maybe 25 cents. And you'd be there for like 4 or 5 hours because you'd see quite a bit. That was kind of neat, and I enjoyed the movies. That was good. And well, like I say, we just played and went to school, and I remember going to Michigan, where my grandparents from my father's side, where they lived, Brooklyn, Michigan, and that was really interesting because you're young, you get to travel. I remember the driving and looking at maps at a young age, and I still do look at maps, and I still don't do the young age though. And that was fun. We got to see snow just a couple of times as a youngster. Because I remember it snowed in Florida when I was in, I think it was fifth grade. Just briefly. It wasn't much of a snow. It was a flurry, actually. But since then, I've seen it snow in Florida maybe 3 more times.
Yeah, I think I remember. I guess it was 77.
77 and then
77.
88.
Huh.
When 77 was when we was living in Riverview, and I had the canoe was turned up.
Yeah.
And then in the daytime, and get up that morning, and you could go out and write the date in the snow. Not on the ground, but on the canoe. And somewhere I had a picture of it, but I don't know what happened to that.
Well, let's move on. So, what do you think of the things we talked about? What do you think would be a good topic?
I don't know.
Hero or funny story or?
I thought about the hero one, and I was very impressed at a younger age with a guy named Cassius Clay or Muhammad Ali, because he stood up for what he believed. He was against a war called the Vietnam War. And it cost him his title, his boxing title, until that decision was reversed and he was allowed to go back to boxing, and he became a world champion boxer again.
Was he jailed?
No, he never was jailed.
Huh. I don't know his full story.
He just went to court, and found him giving judgment in the courts.
So, what about him? Is it that he was an objector, or that he stood by his beliefs?
Yeah, he believed he went against common society when he didn't have to. So that made him brave in that regard. It always stuck with me what a sacrifice he made for his own beliefs. I always admired him for that. Besides being, probably the best boxer that ever put on gloves. Heroes. There's lots of people, and you have to define hero. Is it bravery or is it sacrifice?
Maybe somebody who inspires you or inspired you.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who something they did spoke to you.
Well, you get inspired, like listening to music. Bob Dylan was very good, and the Beatles were very good with their message of music, rather than just a catchy tune. It had a message in there. And, growing up, I grew up in a fantastic era. The 60s and 70s and the 80s. It was troublesome, but it was wide open. And that made all the difference. To me, anyway. What else?
Is there anybody more recent that kind of speaks to you about what they're doing or what they've done?
I have a lot of admiration for President Obama. He really fought a good fight to make America a better place. he was just dragged down the whole way. He fought a good battle and he accomplished quite a bit for somebody that didn't have a lot of backing from a political standpoint. As recent. Uh,
Do you think that has anything to do with you spending time with the whole Democratic Party knocking door to door kind of thing for Clinton? Or it's not really, there's not a connection there?
no, not really a connection. Two different people. Hillary, she would make a good president. She got a good heart, a good brain. Uh, Too bad she didn't get elected. I supported her and the party.
I think she'd like you to.
Yeah, she was good. Yeah.
Would you like to keep going or take a break?
Keep going.
All right. Well, I'm sorry about my phone. Okay, let's get philosophical and deep for a moment. Tell me something you've learned that you want to pass on. Something that means something to you that your grandkids or your great-grandkids would benefit from.
Have a sense of humor. Have a sense of wonderment. It's a big world out there. Go see a lot of it. Go be a part of it. Get involved. Use your brain. You got one. Use it. That's about it on that.
Well, speaking of humor, do you have an entertaining or funny story or anything? You have a great sense of humor, and you're a good storyteller. So, is there something entertaining that your grandkids might want to hear about their parents? Old or recent, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Set the stage.
Yeah. I had two kids. Boy child, Christopher Dean, and girl child, Angela Lynn. And they're both very unique and good people. And the times that we had together were great. Not enough of it. We did a lot of camping and a lot of outdoor stuff and canoeing especially, which was really, really a good way to get together. And they could bring all of their friends and buddies and pals, and so it became a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Looking for bones and shark's teeth and stuff like that. Funny stories, just the amount of adventure and laughter and good times when they were growing up. It was probably the highlight of my involvement with family and stuff like that was the times we spent together that way. Not so much like an anniversary, or I don't remember a whole bunch about like Christmas or something like that as an event. It was like time to go camping. Oh boy, let's go. Any excuse to get out and out. Holidays weren't to be wasted on being indoors.
Was there a special place that you like to camp with the kids?
We go down. Well, a couple of. I enjoyed the Yalify River because it was so close in Hillsborough County, and it was like so right out your back door, so to speak. It was a great river, and had good times there. But the better camping was the canoe trips down the Peace River. And you had to drive about an hour to get there, but once you got there, you spent the weekend and had a grand old time.
Doing what?
Oh, we would swim in the canoeing part, but we'd throw frisbees out in the fields, and that was a bunch of fun. And just being out and just having all the different people there and whatever was happening, it was just good. And we traveled further, and we did Swanee River and oh. Uh,
Did we ever camp on the Hillsborough?
Hillsborough River? No. Unless you want to say at Hillsborough State Park.
Right.
The canoeing and everything in the Hillsborough, it's not all that good of a river for that kind of activity. It is, but it's more quiet and more swampy. It's not a big, deep river.
Is it also more private property where you'd have a harder time finding a place unless it was some sort of organized park?
In the lower river, yes. Upper river, no. It's unattainable. Actually, it's hard to get to. Actually, not too many roads. Like I say, it's not a canoeing river in that regards. Whereas you had two really fantastic rivers within 1 hour of the house. Living in Riverview, is out the back door or driving wherever you want.
Now, I faintly remember like Blue Springs or one of those springs, and they were having a big festival. And so you got to hang out and I guess listen to the music and stuff. But also, it was like an Itchituckney kind of thing. It was in that part of Florida. So it was natural springs, but it was cold, and you jumped in, and it was like a hole. It wasn't a long river. It was just a springs where you got on a rope swing and you landed and, froze your hiney off and squealed with delight and got back out and did it again. Or if you didn't, the faint of heart, it was one time and one time only.
Yeah.
But I know that we did some Itchituckney kind of things, the itch me, scratch me's.
Yeah, that was fabulous because it was so gorgeous. But, weren't any shark's teeth or things like that. And it was, not that it was crowded, but there were a lot of people around. But it was just so beautiful and ice cold.
Yeah, I don't know for Chris, but I have very distinct pieces of memories of some of those types of experiences of the spring-fed rivers, because it's so unique and beautiful. It's not that there's not beauty to be had in the brown rivers of Florida, but it's just a different kind of experience. Cold, very cold.
Yeah, it's got the most magnitude springs in the world in the state of Florida, and just a dozen of them. It's really fabulous aquifer. Yeah, I forgot about Kentucky. That was good. And all the people that when we went camping, there'd be anywhere from a dozen to 20, 30 people, and dogs and kids and everything to go. So it was quite a good time. Always something to do.
I remember one trip where it was so funny because it was all the gang. So it wasn't like Chris's gang. It was like your gang of friends.
Yeah.
And so, I'm perceiving this as a child. So you have a different perspective on things. You have a different pair of glasses on. And, you don't understand a lot of adult things. So you see things differently. But anyway, I know that Dave and Wes got out to beat each other up or something. They were canoeing in the same, was it the same canoe?
Yeah.
Tell about that trip.
Well,
that was so funny.
Canoes, you can tip those things over. So they were playing. They were just having a good time, but they flipped their canoe and were being rambunctious, and everything just went to the bottom. And we had to dive down and drag it all up and dry it off, and everybody shared clothing so they'd have something to wear. And
Now, didn't one canoe have food and the other had other provisions or something like that?
no, that was another trip.
Oh, okay.
That was down the Alafire River. Yeah, that was a good one too. But we see we had 5, 6, 7, probably 8 canoes, and we'd take them all down to the river and get in there. And we had one group that they wanted to just paddle, 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 and go and go and go. And they had all the camping equipment kind of in
Tents
their
and
canoes.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
Tents and sleeping bags. And
whereas the rest of the group, we laid back and drifted and played and just took our time, figuring we'd catch up to them after they got tired. Well, they didn't get tired, so they kept going. So by the time we got to Lithia Springs, they went on, and they didn't know. They figured we'd just catch up to them, but we pulled off, and we slept on the ground, but we had food. They had tents, but they didn't have no food. So the next
who made
day,
out better?
Yeah, we made better. I made a way that we could cook. We didn't have a stove, so I just went around through the woods and collected beer cans, and everybody helped do that too. So we had about 2, 3 dozen beer cans real quick, and we just took a knife and we'd cut the tops and bottoms off, slice them, and then flatten out the aluminum cans, and then we'd pile those all together, and it would make like an aluminum platter. And we built a fire under it, and that's what we cooked on, those beer cans. And like I said, we had all the food, and we had all their food, and they weren't going to eat it. We ate their food too. But the next day, we did find them on the river, and they were all hungry and
well rested, but
well
hungry.
rested and hungry.
And you were dreary but fat and bellied.
Yeah,
That's fun.
that's a little bit of humor there, but just some of the things, the stories. When you have that many people, whether they're sober or not, they just had a blast. Enjoyed throwing frisbee. It was a good way to pass the time, and we would do that.
Now, I didn't go on, I don't think, any of the trips with Chris and his buddies. I think when he was in high school,
Yeah,
I think that they had a gathering or two,
yeah,
if not more. I'm sure that was a good old time for you to watch
oh yeah,
your son being a teenager, hooping it up with his buddies.
right, and they're good people, and to this day. We just had some good time. It was everything was spectacular in that regard. We would see alligators and there'd be snakes and all this stuff, but there were really no bad times. It was just good times. But we'd go 2, 3 days, especially in the summertime. That worked out all right.
What's a special moment, something you're proud of for Chris or me? Any ceremony or something you went to that it's like, or not so formalized?
Yeah.
Something
Uh.
for the grandkids. This is for you guys.
Yeah. Let's see. Chris was. I have to give him regards for his military duty, in that he was gone doing all that stuff, and that's one. But he one bright boy. He was amazing in what he could accomplish, and that he was well regarded by his friends. That speaks volumes. And Angie, yeah, I remember going to like a parent conference times and having teachers say, she's the best student I've ever had. You know? And this is from fellow teachers and stuff like that. I was saying, wow, okay. Uh,
And they said that to the next parent that walked in.
yeah, really.
They had to look at the card. Angie
Yeah.
is the best student I ever had.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was so true. That was good. That's my value system, and what other people might think of your offspring and stuff. And that had nothing to do with me. It was them. But that was good stuff. They were both very, very smart. And that's good. And good to be smart.
I'm sure we got that from my mom.
Yeah, mom is smart too. So yeah, those would be kind of the proud moments. I mean, having kids is a proud moment, and accomplishing like an educational task or degrees and stuff. That's all very important and rewarding.